What's happening, everybody? Good morning and welcome into a brand new episode of Phightin Words. Anthony SanFilippo's here. I'm Bob Wankel. Monday morning, dreary, rainy Monday morning here in the Delaware Valley. But, Anthony, good weekend for the Philadelphia Phillies, who I simply asked not to get swept in this series that didn't really mean anything. Phillies didn't care. Just another series. It's only April 4th through the 6th. Not only did the Phillies not get swept, they won the series. And it was a highly entertaining series, all three games. Some maddening moments, some head scratchers, some drama. We bring you in to recap Phillies Dodgers and what it all means.
It only means, to me, Bob, that they can play with the Dodgers when the time comes.
Yeah,
that's all it means. It means nothing more.
My takeaway. That was
yeah. I mean, it means nothing more, nothing less. I mean, yeah, sure, it's a good weekend. You win 2 out of 3 against a very good team. That's always a positive. And they were previously unbeaten, so the Dodgers had a little bit of something to play for here, right? So that's a good thing. But it's still April. I mean, it's not like, we're going to elevate the Phillies onto this, humongous platform because of this. And conversely, if they would have lost 2 out of 3, or if they would have gotten swept, same thing. I wouldn't have buried them. But at the same time, I would have probably said, well, that's not a good showing against a good team. It leaves you wondering if they could be at that level. So, I mean, that's really it. It's kind of like a short measuring stick. Like, okay, can we play with this team? Okay, yeah, we know we can. And that's really the big takeaway from it.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you have a veteran group of guys that have been through it before numerous times, good weekend, I think. Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. This team, I don't think will get into any situation in October where they feel overwhelmed by an opponent or they feel like that they're going to be outclassed. I think that this group of players, having been through the fire, I don't know if they're going to beat the Dodgers in a playoff series. I'm not sure what that looks like. Are they good enough to do it? I think so. Would I pick them to do it? No. But I don't think that they're going to get swallowed up by the moment either. And this past weekend, I think that in addition to just kind of proving to yourself, even if you didn't need to prove it, I think it's more about proving it to the fans that you can play with the Dodgers, really, than it was about proving it to themselves. I was impressed to see some resilience when things could have kind of gone very south, especially in yesterday's game. Thought there were some big-time plays and big-time moments. Certainly JT Realmuto, I thought, essentially won them the game on Friday night, along with Jesus Luzardo, who we'll talk about more in depth in a little bit. And, they had opportunities even on Saturday. Now, if you said to me, what were your 3 big-picture takeaways, I'd say, yeah, the Phillies can play with the Dodgers. And Luzardo looks like a legit, top of the rotation arm through 2 starts. And we've always known that he has the talent to be that. But then also 3, because we are us, there's got to be a little bit of a negative spin. It's like, how many missed opportunities did this team have this weekend? Whether it was base running, just situational, runner on third, less than 2 outs. There's some things that we also have to unpack that way. And then certainly there's the Jordan Romano. Until this guy starts getting some outs, I think I got to call him Romano too. I don't. Does he deserve the correct pronunciation until
the Canadian pronunciation?
Come on, Romano. Look, I mean, dude, we got to talk about that. I thought it was insane how he was actually used yesterday. At some point it stops becoming the player's fault, and it's like, why would he be in this situation? So I want to unpack all this with you. Now, you were down at the park for Friday and Saturday. You covered the games, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, I was not there yesterday. But
so do you want to work big picture and work with the most recent events, or do you want to circle back to Friday night? Where do you want to take it today?
Well, you could start with Friday because, you mentioned Luzardo already, and that was a pretty impressive performance by him against the Dodgers. Again, the Dodgers are coming in that game 8-0, right? And they have this whole, history thing, defending champs, undefeated, how long can they take it? And he just basically came in and shut down that offense.
Yeah.
And that's a good Dodgers offense. I know Freddie Freeman wasn't playing. That's the only injury that they had. But they still have a ton of talent on that team. And he did a heck of a job in that game. And he was pretty pumped up for it. You could see it on the field by his reactions. Yeah, I'm talking to him after the game. He was really into that game. Like that game mattered to him because he was pitching in front of for the first time in his career a sold out crowd supporting him.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like he came up with I think Washington, right? Then he ended up in Oakland where they never had anybody. Then he was with the Marlins where they never had anybody. So like you never had that kind of support. And Phillies fans showed out, not just because it was the Dodgers, because it's Phillies fans, it's what they do. And you had a sold out house on a nice night, and they were into it. The Phillies fans were into it like it was a September game down the stretch trying to clinch the division. Like Luzardo got into that and like felt that, and I think it kind of motivated him even a little bit more. He's given you two very, very good starts so far. You never want to get too far ahead of yourself because obviously remember Ranger Suarez. Well, remember Ranger Suarez last year. I mean, it was the first 10, 12 starts of the season was untouched. He was Cy Young, right? He was Cy Young pitcher, and then he fell off the table because he's had a history of injuries. So you got to look at Luzardo in that vein. But at the same time, for 2 starts, pretty damn good.
Very good. 19 strikeouts in 12 innings so far. Was fantastic on Friday night. The one word of caution to your point, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. He has only 2 times in his career appeared in more than 20 games in a season, and only once has he started more than 20 games in a season. And that was back in 2023 when he made 32 starts for the Marlins. So it's like, can he hold up? Is he going to be able to make 28 to 32 starts? And if he can, you see the upside there. And right now I always have to turn things into a little bit of like a debate or talking point. But if I had a 3-game playoff series to go win, I'm certainly starting Zach Wheeler game 1. I tell you right now, I would start Luzardo game 2 on merit.
Yeah. I mean,
2 games in, but
yeah. If it was a football season and we only played 16 games, I'm right there with you.
So can we talk about? Well, I'm going to take that a step further. Who would you have starting that 3rd game?
Well, it depends on the matchup.
I'm not saying based on 2 starts either. I'm saying go back to the start of 24. Who would start that 3rd game for you?
Well, I am still right now because I'm not convinced that Luzardo and Sanchez are going to give you the full season that you think you're going to get that you've seen so far. So until I see it over a greater period of time, I'm still going Aaron Nola.
Well, I'm very aware that Aaron Nola actually had a better statistical game than Christopher Sanchez this weekend. It's funny though, and I saw a couple people make the point, the Nola defenders, the legion of Nola defenders out there, this wasn't his fault. He gave you a quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs. That's what you asked for. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I think it's more of like a fatigue thing, man. Honestly, it's just like, home runs. There we go. Great.
It wasn't a great game for Nola. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, his velocity is down. He didn't have his curveball. He grinded. I mean, that's the thing that you like about Nola is that he knows how to pitch, right?
Yeah.
So even when he's not on, he can still kind of get you through a game most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, he pitched well enough to win. I mean, the Dodgers lineup, you can talk. Yeah, I know Freddie Freeman's not there. There's the concern, right? Like, how?
So Chris Fried is asking. He says, how concerned should he be between Aaron Nola's tanking velocity? If this continues, his contract is going to make Walker's deal look good. It's not that. Chris, just so you know, Chris is like you, not a big Nola guy. So always has been. I've had many of private conversations with Chris about Aaron Nola.
I did the Nola thing. Like, I actually, anytime we do a Nola segment from here on out, I want to just play what I said like 2 shows ago. Like, at the end of the year, 30 starts, lots of innings, ton of value, WAR looks good, top 25 arm, the whole deal. Like, I get it. I know. I understand he's good.
Yeah, I mean, as my guy says, he still knows how to pitch. It's my guy. I won't go this far. I mean, I thought that there was 2 at bats where he had a guy struck out and then ended up not getting him struck out. Other than those 2 at bats, I don't think he was getting that squeezed on Saturday. But yeah, like, look, we asked Aaron after the game. He says, "Look, my velocity is not where I want it to be." He says, "I usually start off a little lower in velocity in April, and it picks up as the season goes on. When he gets to 94, 95, Nola is much better, right? I mean, velocity is always the differentiator, and it's not necessarily because you throw hard and guys can't hit it. It's the differentiator between the speeds of your other pitches. So when you don't have that gap, or as Taiwan liked to talk about last week, he calls it the separator. If you don't have that separator pitch that gives a different speed between the fastball and your best secondary pitch, everything starts to look the same, right? And so if Aaron Nola is throwing 92 and his curveball is the second best pitch, but if his other stuff is 89, 90, there's just not enough of a difference there. So you need that separation in velocity. So it's what it all comes down to for him. And yeah, he's going to give up home runs, guys.
He's down a mile an hour year over year right now. So he averaged with his four-seamer, which he threw 28% of the time in 2024. He averaged 92.5 miles an hour with it. This year so far, he's at 91.5. As far as the sinker goes, that's set at 91.5 last year and is at 90.1 right now. So it's down 1.5 miles per hour, which again, it's early in the year. There's a buildup. I'm not saying that where he's at right now is where he's going to be at in terms of velocity in May or June, but you are highlighting the core issue here. Yes, he knows how to pitch and he's a thinker. And we've heard JT in the past say that he loves catching Aaron Nola because of the way that he's able to think through at bats and really keep a hitter off balance. But when that gap shrinks and you have a guy that's susceptible to big mistakes, that when he makes mistakes, he gets hit, right? And he gets hit. He gives up home runs. I mean, that's the problem. He's not able to hide those mistakes. And as that velocity shrinks, that gap shrinks, the margin for error continues to shrink. And that is where I think that there is some validity in being concerned about it.
Bob, I got some criticism for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ian says the anti-Nola stance is the most millennial take Bob has ever had. If you're not an elite arm talent getting strikeouts, then you're not an exciting pitcher.
You know what it is? That's a fair criticism. I'm all about accountability. I'm a big accountability guy. I have to be honest with you. Like this is going to be ridiculous. Like I'm actually leaving myself open for further criticism by saying what I'm about to say.
It's good.
I'm just exhausted by watching him. Like that's all. It's like if this were the first year or second year of Aaron Nola that I've ever seen up close and personal for 30 starts a year, I'd be like, it's fine. This is what he does. It's his thing. But over the last number of years, it's like the year after year of boom, home run, boom, home run. He's good for 4 innings and then it falls apart, but then he's still productive. And I totally understand the whole thing with him. I'm just tired of watching it. I'm tired of watching Nola's on today. 3 clean innings and then boom, boom, boom in 6 innings, 3 runs. And if he didn't give up the 2 homers, it would have been great, but he did. I'm just kind of tired of it.
Well, let me ask you this.
Fatigued. Not tired of it. I'm just fatigued by it.
Let me ask you this then, because sometimes fill-in host or special guest on this program, Anthony Jr., said to me on Saturday, he said, the reason people get tired of Nola is because they still link him to when the team wasn't good, and that's why they have a shorter leash for him. Let's say.
Well, I don't think it's so. For me, it's not that. I don't think it's like, they weren't good in 16 and 17 or 18. He bears responsibility for that. I think more for me, if anything, I think he should probably be credited with helping turn this all around, and he's been a central figure in that. He's had some really big starts down the stretch, and he's had some good postseason starts, not all. But I think for me, what it is, it's not so much that he was on bad teams, it's that he was very much a guy that was struggling at the end of those seasons, where it was like, yeah, he had a nice year, but what the hell was that in September? And I think that it's been hard for him to shake some of that. And as the playoff runs went deeper, he became less effective. And I think it's been harder for him to shake that. And I do think that there's a little bit of a wraparound to last year with him where he's up in New York and it wasn't like he was terrible in that game, but you're like, it always comes back to hey, they doubled down on you. They extended you. They went all in for you. They gave you the long-term contract, the big money. You're a really nice arm, but then you go out against the Mets last year in the playoffs and it's like, it wasn't his fault that they lost, but he's not what you want a guy to be in a wipeout scenario. And it doesn't have to coincide with throwing 99 miles an hour either. That's Yeah, you do. And I agree with that. He's a workhorse.
Yeah.
You need one of those in a rotation. I totally agree with that. Like that's what I said. If you go back a couple shows ago, you go, well, like, look, if I can pencil a guy in for 30 starts, 32 starts, and know that he's going to sniff 200 innings, and then look at the stat line that goes with it, especially in a rotation where you have a Zach Wheeler, and then you have these high upside guys with some volatility in Sanchez and Luzardo, like, Aaron Nola is a great fit in this rotation. Like, I totally get it. It's not saying that he stinks or that they shouldn't have re-signed him. It's just like, for me, there is some fatigue in the moment watching it sometimes. And that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, and it's fair, Bob, because I mean, look, I understand. I see the warts in his game, but and like you said, they come out every once in a while. So far, they've come out in his first 2 starts, right? And it's funny because we talked to Nola after the game, and he said he felt better after with his performance in the Washington game, even though he gave up 5 runs, than he did in the Dodgers game where he only gave up 3. Yeah. So, like, in a lot of ways, it's like, we're looking at the end result number statistically and measuring a guy that way, whereas they don't always measure themselves or have their coaches measure them based on the same statistics that we're looking at. They measure it off of something else. And so, like, he actually felt his start against Washington was better than his start against the Dodgers, and he actually statistically did better against the Dodgers. So, for whatever it is, I mean, that is, yeah.
Well, you look at Saturday's game, they didn't lose Saturday because of Aaron Nola, at least in my opinion. So how about that? Look at that. That's a fair Aaron Nola assessment. They didn't lose the game Saturday because of him. They scored 1 run. And there was a pretty big base running blunder in that game. I actually was hoping that you could kind of clarify that. I know there was a lot of real-time debate, like, hey, did they put on a hit and run? Did Stott, did Stott time that up on his own? Was that a smart decision? Should he have tried to do it earlier in the at-bat? Like, what happened on that play with Schwarber and the line out to right field where he?
Yeah, and look, I put a tweet out right away because I thought it was a base running blunder by Stott.
I thought in real time, in the moment that it was on, I thought it was something put on from the dugout. So here you go.
So I thought it was a blunder by Stott. Then I after the game, I asked Rob about it in his press conference, and I guess I didn't notice it at the time in the moment that it was a 3-2 count. I thought it was 2-2, but it was 3-2 actually. And so, I mean, there's like, well, we're just trying to get the runner in motion to kind of break up the double play there.
Yeah, because he rolls one over to the right, innings over.
Sure. Right. So I'm a little bit more okay with it in that regard, but I'm still not. And the reason I'm still not is this, Bob. And so I take the blame off of Bryson Stott, even though my tweet kind of suggested it was probably his, but I now put it more on the dugout. Here's why I still have a problem with it. You're down 1 run. You haven't been able to score to this point, right? This is the tying run at third base, and the batter at the plate is your best fly ball hitter.
Yeah.
In Kyle Schwarber. He's up there trying to hit a sac fly, right? He's trying to get that run home. He's not trying to roll it over. Now, of course, that doesn't mean he's going to hit the ball in the air. He could potentially roll it over, but have some faith in your veteran hitter that is at the plate that he's going to put the ball into the air to get that tying run home. And so in that regard, don't start the runner. If it's 2 outs, completely understood. Sure. 2 outs, you want to get the runner moving, right? And you probably run. I would even consider running him sooner at that point because you're trying to get him into scoring position, for a hit because you need a hit to drive in a run. Okay, that's fine. But in that spot, because you're down a run, I don't think it's the right call. Tie game, I'm fine with it. If you're ahead, I'm fine with it. But not down a run and you're not hitting. That's why I had a problem with it.
Yeah, and look, it's like if we were doing a post-game show, we would talk about that play and say, this is what happened. This is one of the plays that lost the game, go in depth on it. The reason why I bring it up when we're doing like a weekend recap is because if there was one overarching negative from the weekend beyond Romano, it's situational stuff where like you have a runner on third, less than 2 outs. You don't score in that situation. It was a critical situation to not come through in. Yesterday, very gritty effort. They get it done in the end. A number of missed opportunities again to really take advantage. And, before Romano implodes, they have an ability to tack on there and, get up 7-4, 8-4, and then shit hits the fan. Like that to me, if you are somebody that's questioning what this Phillies team ultimately is going to be against better opponents in October, like this is the stuff that drives you crazy. And they've had a knack for failing in these situations with some regularity in the past. And it showed up again this weekend where you kind of just go, oh, man, like, see, this is the problem. And I'm kind of just curious what you think about that. Like, does that stuff get overblown? I mean, if you zoom out and you watch all 30 teams play, teams leave runners on third base, all the time with nobody out, one out. It's not like the Phillies are the only team that fails in these situations and does so with some regularity. Like, that's baseball. And I understand that, but it just feels like sometimes with these guys where you're like, damn it, like if you could just do this with some more consistency.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and they've had a couple of games here to start the season where you look at it and go, man, they've stranded a small island on base, right? I mean, like you got to have better situational awareness in these spots. You don't like the base running mistakes. You don't like that kind of stuff happening either. That seems to be a chronic thing with this team. They make some boneheaded base running mistakes. But in the grand scheme of things, Bob, I think that this is a team in a little bit of an offensive transition. I'm going to say it that way because I don't want to overblow what they're doing, but I also don't want to belittle the fact that these mistakes continue to occur. And what I mean by this is that they have really, the whole conversation at the end of last year was they're going to have a different approach the way that they're going at the game. Mm-hmm. And they are trying to do things a little bit differently. They are trying to not be as much of a strikeout team with a lot of swing and miss. They're trying to create more offense without it just being the home run, the long ball that they are relying on. And if you look through these first 9 games, you're starting to see signs of that, right? Jamie puts up an interesting thing where, and this is from a Matt Gelb stat. Yesterday was the first time they drew 11 walks. It was only the second time in the last 15 years that they drew 11 walks in a game. That's important that they're up there taking that many pitches.
Look, they've done a nice job with that, and they are walking a lot. I believe they're top 6 in baseball right now in walks.
And their strikeouts are down.
They are.
They're below league average in strikeouts, which is crazy for the Phillies.
I mean, 11 walks is 11 walks, and it's not like Tyler Glasnow walked everybody in the 3rd inning yesterday, but a big part of that was that guy, that was like Bert Hooton, right? Like, I mean, he just lost it. Like, it was dunzo. I've never seen anything like that. It was just missed. It's not like it was some sideways rain coming in. Like, it was very, very strange. Some numbers here. I mean, just to kind of be fair, I guess. I mean, the Phillies right now have the 3rd best OPS in baseball with runners in scoring position, but they are 17th in batting average, only hitting .244 right now with runners in scoring position. And obviously, we're not just talking about runners in scoring position. We're talking about that situational, just get the man in from third, less than 2 outs with contact. It's not just about RASP stuff, but they are leaving as they did last year. And part of this is because they get on base and they are able to create a lot of traffic. They are leaving the 10th most runners per game on base right now. So you score 8 runs yesterday, decent offensive output. But I mean, the Phillies took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers this weekend, and they scored 13 runs in, was it 3-2-1 on Saturday? Yeah. So, I mean, 12 runs in 3 games. It's like this offense, you just feel like there's a little bit more to it.
Yeah,
and we'll see what happens. We're 9 games.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that they are staying in zone.
Yeah,
like they are swinging at pitches in the strike zone. I thought that there was in the game Saturday. I thought they were a little too aggressive. There was a lot of quick at bats, and one of the guys that had a lot of those quick at bats we're going to get to because of the conversation piece that needs to happen. Yeah. But that was the only game. I thought Friday I thought they did a nice job at the plate, and yesterday obviously they did a nice job at the plate.
The Phillies are 5th in walks right now in Major League Baseball. They also have the 3rd highest on base percentage behind.
They're tied for second.
Yeah,
tied for
second with the Yankees.
Yeah. So like, I mean, so we got to, like, I give them credit for trying to make those adjustments. Again, we're 9 games in. This isn't something guaranteed to last the whole season. But for now, it's certainly an approach. And a guy that I noticed it the most with, even though he did have one awful strikeout on Saturday, was Nick Castellanos. I really think he's a guy that has done a much better job at swinging at only strikes and not chasing. You know, he's still going to chase. It's Nick Castellanos, but he's been better at it. And that's not just because he hit a grand slam yesterday. That's irrelevant to me, to this conversation. But I think that he's a guy, and Turner is another guy you're starting to see he's taken a lot more pitches. I think those two are guys that swung through a lot in the last couple years that maybe in the first 9 games have shown less of a proclivity to do so.
Yeah, the Phillies are right basically at league average in pitches per plate appearance seen. They're at 3.9. The league average is actually 3.9. So they are, looks like about 17th overall. For full context, the Cardinals are at 405, and that's the number one in baseball right now. That's up from 384 a year ago. So they have, just statistically speaking, seen more pitches. It's early. You're right. You are seeing it from Castellanos. Let's talk about a guy that pretty much wrecked that number on Saturday, in Alec Bohm.
Yes.
So we talked on Friday a little bit about Alec Bohm, and Edmundo Sosa obviously has been red hot to start the season. Had a couple hits yesterday. He's been a difference maker. Zach Wheeler says that he's one of his favorite players. We know that he's a pretty good defensive player. We also know that he has a tendency to maybe get worn down a little bit over time, and that's an interesting situation in and of itself. But then you look at Alec Bohm, who, look, he has not been great out of the gate. We've seen some of the frustrations this weekend. I thought his at-bats on Saturday were kind of comical. I don't know what this guy's doing. And if you are just joining us here, we had a pretty lengthy conversation about him on Friday. And I had said, I'm just looking for growth as a human being. I understand that progress is not linear, that you're not going to necessarily be somebody that's shown on-field frustrations. This is a narrative about this guy. I don't expect a total 180 and to see it immediately and consistently all the time. Like, my thing with Alec Bohm is that it's not that he shows the frustration. It's that I actually think it's detrimental to his game. He's not a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve. Nobody in Philadelphia is ever going to fault somebody for that. It's that I feel like it snowballs against him or on him in a way that takes away from what he can be as a player, which, by the way, I'm not in love with his upside overall. But then all this nonsense and this carrying on his mindset, I'm starting to really get worn. I mean, I've been worn out with him. I thought that if there was a trade to be made this past offseason, they should have moved on from him. They didn't. That's fine. He's still very talented. I know that there are a lot of smart people that think that he's a good complement to this lineup because he's a little bit different of a hitter. You need to have a guy that can use all fields and hit line drives. I get all that. But similar to like the fatigue thing that I mentioned with Aaron Nola, I have big time Alec Bohm fatigue. I keep waiting for this guy to like turn it on, and I haven't seen it since last June.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with this, Bob, because I'm one of those people who thinks that Alec Bohm would fit best in this lineup if he was on his game on a regular basis. And look, every hitter is going to go through struggles. It's not, everybody has slumps, but his slumps manifest themselves in a different way. And that's the thing. And I think that you're right about that, in that when he gets frustrated, it impacts him even more. And I think that if he could control that a little bit better, he's a better fit for this lineup. But when he can't control it is when he gets pulled out of the lineup like he did yesterday. And I look at it, and here's just a little.
What did he see on 35 pitches and 4 at-bats?
Yeah, so here's a little behind the curtain for you. Because nobody wrote it, including myself. Although I think I put one line in my story about Sosa on after Saturday that kind of hinted at a possibility. But Bohm had a terrible game Saturday. 5 pitches, 4 at-bats, 5 pitches. It was 0 for 4. Really just, and they were weak swings. They weren't good swings. There was some frustration shown in one of the at-bats for sure. After the game, we do the manager first, and then we go into the clubhouse. And we go into the clubhouse. It's usually now, by the time we get into the clubhouse, we're half hour after the game, 25 minutes, half hour after the game's over. And so we walk in the clubhouse, and Bohm's not there. And I noticed that he eventually walks in, still in full uniform, cleats and all. So he hasn't even come in and just was lazing about, like just kind of frustrated with himself. Still in full uniform. And he had come from the direction of Rob's office. Whether he actually had a meeting with Rob after the game, I don't know. I don't want to report something that did not happen. So I don't know that actually happened. But that was the general direction that he had walked from into the clubhouse. And when he sat down, he had like this brooding look on his face. And I turned to Tim Kelly and I said to him, Sosa's in tomorrow for Bohm. He's got to be. He's got to be in tomorrow. Like that. There's something about the way he comes in. Players don't usually come in 30 minutes after the game still in full uniform unless they're hitting in the cages or something like Trey Turner's done that a couple times, right? Like you could tell that something was not right with Alec Bohm Saturday night. And then, of course, the lineup comes out Sunday. He's not in the lineup. And so it wouldn't surprise me.
And Rob says it's a scheduled off day. But you also know, here's what I will say about that.
Yeah.
A manager can take a step and be like, yeah, he's down. It's nonsense. We're not doing this anymore. Rob, I don't think, is going to do that.
Not ever. Publicly, anyway.
Not public. No, not publicly.
Yeah.
So could it have been a scheduled off day? Yeah, maybe. I doubt it. Especially
I doubt it too.
Off tomorrow. Like Alec Bohm's not a let's sit him down for 2 days kind of guy, or hasn't been historically. I think you have to take Rob for what he said, I guess, but I would not be surprised if what you are saying and the way now knowing that was like and we're going to sit you tomorrow because we've been down this road with you before and you're still not doing what we need you to do.
Yeah. I mean, or I'll give you the middle ground of that. There is a possibility that they were looking to get him a day off and maybe moved when that off day was going to be because of the way things went on Saturday. Does that make sense too?
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
I think there's
you have a guy that you have to find ways to get into the lineup. But now here's like where I have the greater conversation about Alec Bohm with some numbers behind it, because I don't want to just like riff on like, well, he's being pouty pants. Let's sit him down for a day. I want to talk about the Rob Thompson aspect of this whole thing in a second too, and kind of continue the speculation. But here's what I know. After the All-Star break last year, the Phillies Alec Bohm played 49 games. He had 191 at-bats. Do you care to guess how many home runs he hit in 191 at-bats post All-Star break last year? The answer is not 0.
3?
4.
Okay.
He hit 251. So like when you look at Alec Bohm, the back of the baseball card, right? You're like, I hit 280 and find some gaps and he almost knocked in 100, like all that. Okay, great. After the All-Star break in 49 games, he hit 251 with a 681 on-base percentage. This is a guy in the middle of the order that's supposed to protect Bryce Harper with 681 on-base percentage with 4 home runs.
OPS.
His OP. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 681 on-base percentage would be great. 681 OPS. So you're talking about a guy that doesn't hit for power, didn't hit for average in the second half. Like you can point all the fingers you want about the Phillies' second half. A lot of it was this guy. It was. So. And then you look at this season, he's hitting 200. He's 7 for 35 with 1 extra base hit,
which was opening day.
And he has 1 walk.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, his OPS, I think, is 4 something right now. Like, it's early, but you have to look at what happened over the final 2 months of the season last year, too. Okay, so then you look at what Edmundo Sosa's done. And as we discussed, and I don't want to be super repetitive, but this weekend, I think, amplified this discussion. So I feel like we have to come back to it. He's been extraordinarily productive, high energy, good vibe. I know that we're like done with the vibe word with this team now, but like at some point, I think you have to maybe test this a little bit and get this guy on the field a little bit more. And it's going to be at Alec Bohm's expense. It has to be.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and spread it around so that they don't make it look like it's one guy being punished to give the other guy an opportunity to play.
Can I just ask you this?
Yeah.
I agree with you that they are going to do that. I think, you'll see Bryson Stott sit out against some lefties here and there. Like, if Trey needs a blow, whatever, like they'll make it work. So it doesn't look like it's a Bohm Sosa thing. Who gives a shit? Who cares?
They care.
Why?
Because it's a thing with them, Bob. And this is, I think I brought this up a couple episodes ago, where they treat their guys a certain way,
it's not working with him.
Even at the detriment of the team. And I don't understand it.
Don't you think some of those other guys, some of those veteran guys, I know Bryce Harper went to bat for Alec Bohm after the opener and said, like, yeah, we have a lot of confidence in him. Like, he's our guy, blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't know. I've never talked to Bryce Harper about his thoughts on Alec Bohm, right? So maybe Bryce Harper does love Alec Bohm and like loves that he gets frustrated and really believes that we have not yet seen the best of Alec Bohm. Maybe. But don't you think that act has worn thin with some of those veteran guys? And don't you think that everyone was probably on the same page except for Alec Bohm last year when they sat him down against the Mets?
Yeah.
So the thing is, if it's like the players will run through a wall for Rob and the players in the clubhouse respect the way that the Phillies do things, and that's their system, and that's the way they handle things, I get that. And I'm on board with that. But at some point, don't you just have to say, for this guy, it's not working? And if you think that there was a conversation on Saturday about like, yo, we're going to sit you down for whatever reason, but like you need a day, and they probably weren't thrilled about the game that he played or some of the body language again, at some point, oh, well, and I just think that it's like if you're a teacher, like you've been in a classroom. Hey, this is my core philosophy. This is how I handle management of people, of human beings. Or if you're a boss or anybody that's a leader in any capacity, these are my core values. Take a Nick Sirianni word. This is how I treat people. This is how I act. This is the way I do things, because I believe at a macro level, I'm going to get the best out of the group if I do that. But at some point, if you take your philosophy and you see it's not landing, then you have to adapt. And I almost am at the point where it's like, forget accountability. I don't need Rob Thompson to grab a microphone and be like, Alec Bohm is embarrassing and I'm sick of it. We're sick of it. That I don't think would be productive. So I don't think I'm certainly not implying that they should do that. But I think at some point it's like, Sosa, Bohm, you want to play, hit the ball.
Yeah.
Knock the shit off. Go.
Yeah. Look, Bob, I don't disagree with you. Like it's a frustration that exists for the team, for I think for the manager, and I think for a lot of fans. I still think that they're going to slow play it as long as they possibly can.
I also acknowledge it's April 7th, and they could get there. Maybe that is the thought. Maybe it's like, yeah, actually what that guy just said makes some sense. We're just not going to do it the second week of the season. Yeah. We're gonna let this play out at least a few more weeks. But at some point, just forget the body language attitude thing. Like at some point, a guy in the middle of the order needs to not hit 200 and get on base a little bit and hit a ball in a gap or hit a ball over a fence.
Yeah, I predict Sosa plays left field tomorrow against Chris Sale.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah, I think that Bohm's back in the lineup, and both Marsh and Kepler are out.
He's going to be back. If Bohm's out in the lineup tomorrow, then
no. Yeah.
That tells you that's a whole different. We should come back on Wednesday morning and have that conversation about why he's in the lineup.
Yeah.
So, all right. That was fun. What you want to just go right to Romano since we're
since we're ripping people, let's go Jordan Romano.
7-2, by the way.
Yeah.
The 7-2 Phillies just won 2 out of 3 against the best team of the last 50 years, according to pretty much anybody that you talk to. Let's just go right down the list here. Jordan Romano obviously is struggling. He got booed pretty heartily, if that's the right word, at the end of the game or coming off the field, the end of his dismal outing yesterday. And he's certainly frustrated. And I do feel for the guy on a human level. Certainly he didn't want to come here and get off to this start. I guess what I don't understand, going back to yesterday, and I know that Rob said that he wanted to leave Kerkering for later in the game because you figure you're going to go through that pocket of the lineup maybe another time, and you have a multi-run lead. I don't know. To me, like, we can sit here and talk about how the game wasn't that important or the series wasn't a statement series, and that's fine. Like, okay, fine. But you have a chance to win a baseball game against a really good team, win a series. You've got Kerkering, Strom, Alvarado, and you've got 9 outs to get. Why in the calculus of this do you say, let's take a guy who has no feel at all right now, is completely struggling, and hey, let's give him Ohtani bets? Like, I don't get that.
I guess the only thing I can think of, Bob, and I'm with you. I wouldn't have gone Romano there either. I would have gone Kerkering. The only thing I could think of is Rob was pretty adamant, and although I asked Romano about it afterwards on Friday, and he said no, he was fine. But Rob was pretty adamant that the reason Romano struggled Friday was because he didn't have enough time to warm up.
Okay.
If you know, in the bottom of the eighth, the Phillies saw 4 pitches in the bottom of the eighth. All right, on Friday's game, and so Romano doesn't get up until the Phillies start batting, and there's 4 pitches, and he's got to come into the game. So Rob felt like he was short. I asked Romano. Romano said he was fine. He said, did he throw fewer pitchers than he usually does for a warm up? Yes, but he felt like he was still okay. So Romano didn't want to use that as an excuse. So if you're going to say that, if you're Rob and you believe, okay, we didn't really get our guy warm up enough, and that's why he struggled on Friday, put him back into the same situation 2 days later and see with a regular warm up if he's okay. And he wasn't. And so now you got to look at it and say, all right, his velocity is down. He's throwing a bunch of spinners instead of sliders. What do we do with this guy? Yeah. And the answer that Rob gave, based off what I read, because like I said, I wasn't there yesterday, was that they need to kind of get him into softer landing spot. He didn't say it that way, but it was kind of perceived that we'll still get him his opportunities, but maybe not in the higher leverage spots. And so you're going to have to see somebody else like Joe Ross kind of step into that role. And, Joe Ross has been fine so far, so maybe he can do it. I don't know, but that doesn't really leave you feeling good about the fact that you gave up on guys last year to go to this guy.
They're going to kill one of these guys at the back end of this bullpen if they can't find another arm that can get outs in the 7th, 8th, or 9th innings. I mean, Strom, Alvarado, Kerkering, they're not going to hold up. I mean, every time you have a lead, if those are your options, there's got to be a 4th and a 5th and there at least has to be 2 other guys that you feel like this guy can take down 2 to 3 outs situationally, matchup plays at the end of a game. And they are short right now. And we speculated that they might be short. And the thing with Romano is, they do the signing, and nobody at the time said, I hate this signing, or this guy stinks, or he can't do it. But I think that Romano, if you're going to take that flyer, and it's not a cheap flyer either, but I think that he had to be more of a luxury item. Like, hey, and by the way, if we can get this guy back to where he was once upon a time, now we're really deep. But there had to be, for me, one more guy. It's like if you go with Estevez, Hoffman, and sub them out, you basically sub those 2 guys out, and Romano was your replacement for both.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
Agree.
And, if he were what they would hope he might be or could be, you would feel a lot better about this, but you'd still, I think, even be like, man, they could probably use one more arm. But as it is right now, I think that they're 2 medium to high leverage guys short in that pen. Now, does that change if Andrew Painter comes and, Ranger Suarez frees up or whatever they wanted? Yeah, maybe the calculus, that's the second time I've said calculus. I'll stop saying that, but the math changes. You feel a little bit better about it, but they're going to have work. I think they're going to have work to do at the deadline with the bullpen. And just a couple things on Romano. Like, we could sit here and be like, what's wrong with Jordan Romano? And you look at his 4-seam velocity in 2023, 96.7 last year, 96.4 this year, 94.6. He's down almost 2 miles per hour with his fastball on average right now. And beyond that, everyone talks about the slider. The slider's so good. It gets good pitch. First of all, very small sample size, but opponents are slugging 600 against the slider right now. And it could be worse. It could be far worse. You watch these games, and I know you've covered them a lot in person, and it's a little bit harder to see the bite on a breaking pitch. There is at least 1 to 2 pitches per game where you go, holy spinner. Like, there at least one a game where you go, that ball should have been tanked, and he's gotten away with it. For the most part, he's gotten away with those. And then you see, like, he'll bite one off every now and then. Like, you'll be like, okay, good pitch. Like, that thing was nasty. That was, showed the zone, dipped out, had some bite. But there's a bunch of non-competitive sliders mixed in there as well. So when the velocity's down the fastball, the slider's a mistake pitch half the time it comes out of his hand. That's a bad mix. They have got to reset on this. Like, I would rather see Joe Ross right now in the 7th or 8th protecting a 1-run lead than this guy. Not to say that he can't get there. I'm not saying that the guy's a total bust or that they're going to have to DFA him in the middle of May. They might, but I just think what you're seeing right now is a guy that has no confidence, no velo, no feel. You got to go into reclamation mode with him, and let him to try to recharge the battery in lower leverage spots. And I would imagine yesterday had to be the final straw of that.
I agree, Bob. I think that's what they have to do. They got to move him out of the high leverage spots. And yeah, I mean, that's why you wish you had that other arm, because even in the past when they've had this problem, remember Alvarado last year, like they had to move him out of the higher leverage spots because he just wasn't being effective. They still had 4 guys that they could still go to at that time in the bullpen in the higher leverage spots. Like, okay, fine. We still have 4 other guys. Now you don't. Now you have 3. And you got to hope somebody else can do it. You
replaced one of the best Phillies relievers over a 2-year span with a guy that you feel like you can't pitch in a competitive game right now. You've taken Jeff Hoffman, forget Estevez, whatever, but you've taken Jeff Hoffman out and you have subbed him in with this. That you can't look at this bullpen and say, oh, it's just as good as last year, or it's significantly better, or I feel great about the depth, or we can come at you so many different ways. Like, that's not true right now.
Right. No, you're right.
Jeff Hoffman, by the way, I mean, I'm not saying I would have done 3 years at that money or what have you, but 5 games, 1 run, no walks, 5 strikeouts, 4 1/3 innings. I know he was out there on the mound the other night when the Blue Jays blew that lead, but that wasn't his mess. So,
yeah,
I don't know, man. That's something that they definitely do have to figure out. Now, on a positive note, I watched Matt Strahm on Friday night basically get through an inning, a key inning on balls alone, because he had nothing on Friday night, and he gets the job done. And then he comes out yesterday and was very effective, and the velocity was up. It was up a full mile an hour from Friday night. I don't think he's still where he wants to be, but what do you make of Matt Strahm's weekend? 2 effective appearances. Are you as concerned about him and his arm after watching him yesterday as you might have been on Friday night? And again, to his credit, the dude's a bulldog. He figured it out. He bared down. He's done that for the most part this season. It doesn't look like electrifying, though. Where, like, when you watched him last year at his peak, you're like, damn, this is like Wipeout. Like, I understand how he's getting these outs. Right now, you're like, dude, this guy's digging deep.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I felt that there was I asked Rob about it on Friday night. Like, I was in the press conference. I said, his velocity's down. Are you guys concerned that this is more than just, the fact that he's a little bit behind because he missed 8 days of spring training with the shoulder issue? And he said, no, he's an honest guy. He tells us how he feels. We believe him, and he says he's fine. But yeah, we have to look at it. He thinks he's dealing with what they called, have you ever heard of dead arm at the end of spring training?
April, yeah.
That's the thing. Like, Rob's like, oh, it's like the typical dead arm in spring training, and it catches me off guard because I've never heard of a pitcher having dead arm in March and April. Yeah. Like, I've heard of dead arm in August. Yeah. In August, I've heard of dead arm. I've never heard of dead arm at the end of spring training. And when Rob threw that at me, I was like, is that a thing? Like, I didn't know. So maybe it is. If it is a thing, it's a thing, and then, well, let's wait and see. So, but there is a little bit of a concern. I won't call it a major one, because, like you said, he had a nice bounce back game yesterday. Let's see how he looks over the next, handful of appearances and see if there's anything that reverts back to what we were used to with Matt Strahm versus him being somebody who's grinding through his appearances.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you on that. Anything else you want to touch on over the weekend, or anything else that jumps out at you before you want to, get to one last thing?
No, I just look ahead to the Braves here. I mean, this is usually, it's funny we didn't even mention it, other than saying that they're going to face Sale tomorrow. By the way, Wheeler versus Sale, which is kind of a cool
Now, is that
matchup.
established? Because I know that was what was announced, but then they did get rained out yesterday, Atlanta. So they're could they possibly tinker with that? I can't imagine they wouldn't want to go Sale game one of this, but
yeah, I think that they're going to want to go keep Sale on his schedule. I don't think they're going to want to push him back, at least not at the beginning of the season, anyway. So yeah, but not a lot of talk about Phillies Braves because the Braves are 1-8, right, and the Phillies are 7-2. Still kind of an important series, I think. I think the Braves.
I love the Braves. Friday night, they did exactly what you'd expect. We're back at home. We got the Marlins. They beat them up, and then Saturday night they get their ass kicked. Yeah. And then they get rained out yesterday. Like, that was not a good weekend for the Braves. Like, if you're a Braves fan, you did not wake up this morning going like, "Oh, I feel a lot better now." Like. Yeah, that was not the get right series that you would hope. So
correct.
A Braves fan. So now this is the exact scenario we talked about last week, which is the Phillies come in 7-2. The Braves are 1-8. You're going to go Wheeler, Sale. You're going to go Walker, Holmes. Right now is the way it's projected in Luzardo, Schwellenbach. You, if you're the Phillies, have an opportunity to go in there, win a series, and like not bury the Braves. If you sweep the Braves, you might bury them. Like, that's where the math starts to come into play, and you're like, yeah, good luck. But you have a chance to really, really send a message here, like, this might not be your year, boys. Like, and again, it's still April, it's still very early in April, but
yeah, no, I mean, if the Braves are 1-11 or 2-10, I mean, that's tough.
Gonna be tough. In a division where the Mets have played well so far, the Phillies. I know we talk about the Mets pitching, and we're not sure about it. And the Phillies are far from a perfect team, as we've just noted for the last, about 40 minutes of this podcast. So there's going to be openings. The Braves are probably going to get hot. They're going to be able to make a run, but it really does, from a mathematical standpoint. Like, if they walk out of this series 1-11, that's going to be tough.
Well, that's especially because the Phillies will also be 10-2,
and not to mention,
They'll be 9 games out.
To be clear,
games in the season.
The Phillies are going to walk out of here with the Braves 1-11. I do not expect the Phillies to sweep series here, and I frankly would be. If Atlanta's got something, like, they win this series.
I kind of agree with you. I think if I was picking this series, I would pick the Braves 2 out of 3.
I would too, but at some point you got to hit. Like, that's the one thing. That's the one thing about this Braves team right now. We're like, well, it's the Braves, but they are not hitting. Like, they are not hitting. And, we'll see, especially when you got Wheeler, Walker, and Luzardo. Yeah. That's nasty.
Yeah, Walker's nasty. Nasty. All right, one last thing. Actually, is two last things, but just wanted they're two quick hitters. Want to kind of throw at you and get your take on it. First, Blake Snell ends up on the IL already for the Dodgers. Why is it that the Los Angeles Dodgers every year 40 pitchers are hurt? Like, as good as this team is, they can't keep pitchers healthy. And I don't understand it.
You know what? I'm glad you brought this up, because this was one of the things I thought about this past weekend, where you can poke holes in every team. And the hole that I would poke in the Dodgers is, and to their credit, they won a World Series essentially last season under this very scenario. But I could see a world where, is Snell there in October? Is Glasnow there in October? Glasnow's corny. Like, I actually should stop myself from doing this, but like, the dude is made of glass. Like, he has no ability to stay on the field.
Yeah.
So you start to wonder. And like, Yamamoto is nasty. Saki was very good on Saturday, but like, I don't know what that looks like over 32 starts either. Like, I don't know if the Dodgers is there time, like, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They could be in a situation where they could be 8 deep in October. We're like, dude, like, honestly, the Dodgers number 7 starter right now could be like a game 1, game 2 starter in a playoff series, or they could be in a situation where they're missing 4 of these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how it always happens with that team. The other one I wanted to run by you is breaking late last night. It was almost midnight when it came out. Vlad Guerrero, 14 years, $500 million with the Toronto Blue Jays. What do you make of that?
No,
other than the fact that he's not coming to Philadelphia.
I would have loved to have seen him in Philadelphia. I thought maybe, you talk about roster flexibility and not over committing in 25, and because maybe there's one more of these like hammer additions, like a Guerrero in the distance. It's not going to be him. My overall thought is that is good for baseball. I like that he will stay up there. I am happy that he won't be like a New York Met a year from now. You want to see, for me anyway, you want to see stars spread out, and attached to certain franchises. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, other than that he's not going to be here, what's the downside of it as far as like being a fan of baseball,
No, yeah, it's good. Although I do wonder how it impacts what's going to happen after the CBA expires and the end of next season, when you got all these guys making this kind of money and long-term deals, and the owners are going to push for a salary cap, and the players union is going to say this is the very reason why we don't want to push for a salary cap, because our players can get paid and you guys are willing to pay that money. So we're not going to settle for it. And that's the only negative I look at. Like, I think it's good for baseball too, that it's not one of the same old teams that.
When's that CBA expire? 27 or 28?
It expires after next season.
After 26.
Yeah.
So do they play a scheduled an opening day to start the 27 season?
I don't think so.
Do they play the 27 World Series?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think they'll lose a year. I think that both sides know better. But I do think that there could be a delay to the start of the 27 season. I do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So,
take it away.
Anyway, yeah, that's it. But thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of Phightin Words. As you can see, scrolling across the bottom, that you should subscribe to Phightin Words here on YouTube, and you can click that thumbs up button, ring the bell, make sure you never miss a show whenever we go live. It'll come right up on your phone or your tablet, laptop, wherever you're watching us. But if you just like to listen and don't want to actually watch me and Bob and look at our pretty faces here on YouTube, you can subscribe on anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, all those places. We are there, and we usually will hit your feed within a couple hours after we go live. So you can always listen to it on your lunch break or later in the day on your ride home, and get your best Phillies talk in town. So for Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony SanFilippo. Said thanks for tuning in to another episode of Phightin Words. We will see you on Friday morning.